All right, it's good to see everybody again today. We're back again. All right, so I want to welcome everybody to the first presentation of our Pro Club Summer Health Seminar Series. I want to say that we do have some really good topics lined up for you guys this summer. So be on the lookout. I'll put the list up in the next couple of months, sometime in the near future. But we wanted to kick things off with something more motivational. So we have one of our own today. Last year, we had Pete come in and talk to us. He was very motivational. And we wanted to start that out again this year. He has a tremendous story that he's going to tell us about today. And as he's telling this story, I want you to try to see yourself in the story. So begin to think about your story and what transformation you want to see in your own life. Okay? It may be something else related, it may not be. But as he's telling this story, try to envision what it is that you want to see in your own life. So without any further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce one of our own, Mr. Pete Backhouse.
Thank you, Rod. We are on camera today to let you all know that. The good thing is we no longer need a wide-angle lens. Notice Rod did not say I'm one of the good presentations that have, but I am one good. How many of you remember my presentation from last year? How many of you remember what I said? You're here for the points, right? That's the main thing. It's not important what's being said. Rob, what do you remember about what I said?
I thought you talked about weight, how much you lost, how much you had to do, and just came to a point where you had to do something.
Great.
You did it, you made it happen.
Thanks. Everybody hear that? It was a discussion about the weight that I lost, how I had to make a decision to do something, and how I went about doing it. Very good. Last year I talked a lot about the specifics of how I got there, what happened with my blood, how things got out of control. I'm going to talk more about what Rod asked me to, which is my transformation. And I love that word transformation because it makes me think of the butterfly coming out of the cocoon. Now, I've never been called a butterfly before. My mom used to call me a bull in a china shop. It's probably a lot closer. But the idea of the change that takes place, it's a great vision. And there has been a big change in my life, and I want to share with you how that happened and why it happened. But the thing I want you to remember for today, if you're going to write anything on that card, is this. If you want to, if you need to, and you have the desire to, you can change your life, that will make a change that will give you great health benefits and a better life as a result. You can do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. And what I want to do is start out today talking a little bit about my background, why I am the way I am. Some people say that's unexplainable, but there's a lot of influences in that background. And we all have those influences. I think you're going to see some similarities. Maybe not in the specifics, but the generalities of where I come from and why I am the way that I am. I was born on Long Island, New York. That's where my family was raised. That's where I started life. Typical family, two-parent household with a younger sister. 4 people who lived here. Very typical for back in that time. My dad was born in 1931 in Germany. He was an immigrant to this country. He came over at the age of 19. He came over after World War II because there was a lack of opportunity in Germany. The veterans were back, the men were there, they were trying to find work. There wasn't a great economy at the time. The country was war-ravaged. So he had an uncle of his and an aunt who came to New York, and he followed them over. He knew no English at the time, none whatsoever. But he knew the reputation of the country as being the land of opportunity. So he came to seek his way through English as a 19-year-old. He taught himself English. He found employment. He went to work. German work. He had. My mom was born in 1934. Her parents were both German immigrants, and they were in New York as well. So you can tell I've got a real German background. That helps explain a lot, right, for those who know me. She was born 34. As a child, she went over to visit relatives in Germany, 1938, 1939. World War II broke out, and she could not get back to the United States. She got stuck in Germany for 6 years as an American, was hidden by her relatives over there because she was an American in Germany. They had to conceal her nationality. So she grew up speaking German, knowing German, but both of my parents, as a result of that, knew the hardships of war, the lack of food, the lack of opportunity that came to the world at that time, having to scrape by and just make it. In 1958, my parents were married after a courtship. They met each other in New York, got to know each other, fell in love, got married in October 58. I came along in July of 1959. It was a very fruitful honeymoon. My dad later told me that at age 27, when I came along, he thought he was too old to have kids. Times were different back then. Families were started a lot younger. And he thought that he didn't have the energy that he needed to be able to participate in the activities and stuff. So my mom was 24, my dad was 27. My sister came along about 2 years later in 1961. My father worked construction doing masonry work. That is what he learned to do or taught himself to do as a trade. And he actually started his own business with a partner up in Long Island, traveling around doing brickwork, block work, pouring concrete, all of that labor. My dad was my hero. He was the man that I idolized. I loved going to work with him as a kid and being on a construction site, which, as you can imagine, as a kid was a really exciting thing to do. But as I grew older, I started to learn to help him on the sites. I'd set break and block out for him. I helped set up forms to pour concrete. As I got older, I learned to dig trenches, to pour footers. And I loved the physical work. It was challenging, and you saw a product, an end result of that. So it worked out really well. And so I told my dad, when I grew up, I wanted to go into construction like he did. He looked at me and said, "Peter, don't be an idiot. You don't want to work this hard in your life. Get a government job with benefits." So that's what we did. My dad was also very talented growing up in a lot of different areas. He actually played soccer coming home from Germany and played on a team in New York before he married my mom that finished second in the country one year of all the amateur teams. I remember telling me about going to St. Louis and playing his first night game ever under the lights in the championship game. So he was a starting goaltender on that game. They wound up losing that game 3-1. He gave up soccer when the family came along because he was afraid of getting injured and not being able to provide for his family. Working. My mom also worked when we were kids. Once my sister and I got old enough to go to school, she got a job as a waitress. She would work breakfast and lunch shifts in order to be home in the afternoon to cook dinner, to make sure we would all sit down as a family together at dinner and eat together. That was important, being a family and sharing meals together. She made my dad lunches for him to take to work and would get us out. And when we came home in the afternoon from school, the first thing that we did is sat at the kitchen table and did our homework. Education was important. It was the root to success. We had to make good grades. We got incentives for making good grades. Report cards came out. We got good grades. We got extra money. So there was lots of incentive to succeed that way too. And my parents always hammered, education is what you need to succeed. I once lost out on a trip as a child with my uncle to go out west. He decided to go out west to California, the Grand Canyon, Yosemite, all of that, and I was going to go with him for 2 weeks in this school. I was excited until my interim report card came home and I had a B+ on it, and my parents canceled the trip. So he went by himself. I had straight A's on my report card by the end of the semester. When we had our meals together, there was a lot of traditional German cooking. Again, my parents understood the importance of being able to put food on the table, provide, because they lacked as kids. They planned out their meals for the week, and we would sit down and eat. What came on your plate, you ate. You don't take more than you're going to eat. If there was more, you could have more, but you had to finish your plate. Again, remember what my mom said, Peter, clean your plate. You need to eat what's on there. There are kids starving around the world. I'm not exactly sure how cleaning my plate correlated with helping starving kids around the world, but that was important to them that we ate what came on our plate. So I always wanted to eat my plate. And we almost always had a dessert with meals as well, because my dad had a sweet tooth. We grew up with that. My mom was also a great baker. And there was a German tradition, as I found out later on, I'll tell you about going to Germany, that the German table was set with a meal and with a dessert. My parents understood that you could succeed through hard work and saving money. They both definitely had that German work ethic. We lived in a 3-bedroom house. I played outside a lot with the neighborhood kids. After homework, it was go outside. We didn't sit around the house. TV wasn't a big thing back then. We hung out. We played sports. We played all of the seasonal sports, baseball, football, kickball, basketball, rode bicycles, hung out with my friends. That was what I did. In the evening, my mom would step out before dinner and would yell, Peter! And I was expected to come home. That was the way it was. On the first call. If I didn't come home on the first call, I came home on the second and the wooden spoon was waiting for me when I walked in. That was the way that it was. As a result of working with my dad, I developed some labor skills. That's not hard to do. And I got my first summer job working construction with him. We were building a bank in Vero Beach at the time. His company was, and I helped as a laborer. I got paid $5 an hour cash, which back in 1973 or 74 was a whole lot of money. It was enough for me to go out and buy my first car, a used 72 Chevy Vega. And that's what I used. At 15, I had my first car. It blew up after a year, but it was my first car. And I was able to have that car, but the condition that my parents taught me about managing money, the only way that I could have that car was if I paid for it. I bought it, I paid for the insurance on it, I paid to put the gas in it, I paid for the maintenance of it. If I didn't have the money to do it, the car didn't go in. Some things that they transferred on to me, which I've also tried to pass on. I got to know both sets of my grandparents growing up. Family was very important. Every year in the winter, my family would travel to Germany. Stay at least a month at a time to go over. Construction was slow in New York at the time. When the weather was not conducive to working outside, so my father could afford to shut down his business and make that trip. So we'd go over, and as a kid, I found out it was very easy to pick up a second language because none of my relatives spoke English. So I was immersed in a German environment. I learned to speak German by reading comic books and newspapers and road signs and listening to conversations and asking questions and picking up those German words. And I actually wanted to become fluent in German. We always sat down as a family to meals together. Dinner and lunch were always together as an extended family with my grandparents. Sometimes my aunts and uncles would be over also. My dad's brother lived in the same town, actually right behind where my grandparents lived. And his sister, my aunt, lived in the neighboring town, so we spent a lot of time with each other. My cousins, who I also got to know, were learning English in school at the time, so I did get to speak with them a little bit in English. I got to practice, but I also learned a lot of German from them. My mom would help my grandmother prepare the meals. My grandmother was in charge of the kitchen. She put out the meals and what we ate very well. We were on vacation, so we ate what we wanted to, however much we wanted to. Good German chocolate, all those wonderful desserts. It was awesome. I was always a very chunky kid. My grandfather in Germany was an accountant, and he retired with a pension from the city that was my dad's home town. So he was a government employee. I also got to know my mom's parents, the German immigrants who were here. They lived in Manhattan, and they bought a second place in upstate New York. Let's try that again. One more time. Second place in upstate New York. And I can remember going into Manhattan to pick them up to go upstate New York and spend the weekends with them. When they retired, they moved upstate. My grandfather on my mother's side was a chef, good cook. And my grandmother worked as maid, so they both had full-time jobs that they worked as well. We moved to Florida as a family in 1974 because the construction industry had slowed down on Long Island. My dad's business partner had moved down a couple of years before to West Palm Beach, so there was a connection. He told how construction had picked up in Florida. So we came down and settled in Stuart, Florida. I went to high school at Martin County High School. I finished in the top 20 of my graduating class of 475 with 3.75 on the GPA. I earned a 2-year SAT scholarship at Indian River Community College, earned an AA degree in pre-business administration, worked as an office manager for an insurance agent full-time while I was going to school, and lived at home. Played lots of sports, played softball in the league and tournaments on the weekends, played racquetball, played pickup basketball games, football games, pickup football, stayed very active physically, but didn't really have a workout regimen. Played soccer in high school, started the soccer team in my high school, belonged to a bunch of different clubs. When I was running in high school, my weight was at 190 pounds. Real healthy. We worked out with a cross-country team. So we had to run to be in shape. But once I got out of high school, I got off that regimen and didn't work out as regularly as I should have other than playing sports. Came to Gainesville in 1979 to go to the University of Florida and major in accounting. I thought that's what I wanted to do. I was a member of the Future Business Leaders of America in high school and finished second in the state in a bookkeeping competition. So I thought, hey, this is going to be a great thing to do. Well, I got up here, I was out on my own for the first time. I never let studying interfere with my education, and I decided that I didn't want to be an accountant. It's not what I wanted to do, so I started looking around for something else that I was interested in. I remembered as a kid, we had a book on police equipment in the house that I used to look through, all the different things and things that police officers did. So I thought, that'd be a pretty interesting job. GPD was advertising at the time to hire. I put in with GPD, and out of 1,200 applicants, I was one of 16 selected to go to the police academy. That's how I started my career with GPD in that April of 1982. Stayed very active again, playing lots of sports up here in Gainesville. I played intramurals through college, so I felt real good about being physically active, but again, not a regular workout regimen. But in the police academy, they made us run. My weight got down from what was 230 here to 213 pounds in great physical shape. Got out on my own at GPD after the police academy, started working midnight shift for my first 3 years. Forget running, just tried to get sleep at regular intervals. We were on 5/8 at the time, and if you did that with midnight shift, you usually spent your days off in court for all the cases that you made. Regular eating, lots of fast food. That's how we coped. We just grabbed as we went, so there was no real good diet control. My weight started to pick up, 230, 240, 250. Uniform sizes went up. Played in the Police Olympics, which was a competition of all law enforcement in the state of Florida. Once a year we'd get together in various venues around the state and compete against each other. And I played softball, I threw horseshoes, I did basketball with the GP team, we did bowling, we did a bunch of other things. Well, one year, the Police Olympics were over in Jacksonville. And a police captain was a real good friend of mine named Norm Thomas. Norm Thomas, for the those of you who remember him. He and I had a competition because we were both rather overweight and decided that who could lose the most weight by the time the Police Olympics came around 3 months later would win a bet. The bet was for $50 and a night at our favorite restaurant. And if we lost more than 30 pounds, we would double the winnings. So I got back in the gym, I started working out, I was running, I watched what I ate, I cut down on my alcohol. And we had weigh-in 3 months later. Norm lost 25 pounds. I lost 35 pounds. Won the bet, collected $100 and 2 nights at my favorite restaurant. Immediately after the police Olympics, I stopped working out again. Weight came back, 230, 240, 250, 260. Then I met my wife, and we started dating, and the wedding came on the horizon, so I lost weight again for the wedding. We got back down to 235, and that was great. And then the wedding passed, and we went back into the old habits, not working out, not doing what I was supposed to. The weight climbed again, and I stayed between 260 and 270 for an extended period of time. I thought I was healthy. I played with the kids. I rode bikes. I coached my son's youth soccer team, took the kids to the pool and went swimming with them, did all those things, but again, no regular workout regimen. At one point, my weight got over 300 pounds while I was a computer. I was in an administrative job and not doing much of anything. And I looked at that and said that was never going to happen again. This is ridiculous. Do this. So I dropped my weight back down to the 260 to 270 level. Even though I thought I was healthy, I had some things occur. Physically, I got gout flare-ups. Anybody here ever had gout? Gout is it's caused by a rise in the uric acid content in your blood. And gout can strike you in several different ways. For me, it was in the joints of my feet and my Achilles tendon. So bad that I would limp around. Huge pain. It was terrible. And I'd get it several times a year. Gout or uric acid can also give you kidney stones. Fortunately, I've never experienced one of those, although several people that I know have. And again, poor diet is caused by that. So I would modify what I eat a little bit. When I got it, get the uric acid down low enough that it'd go away, but it would come back. I had profuse sweating. I would soak the sheets in my pillow when I slept at night, regardless of how cool the temperature was. Just the way that I was. I'd stop breathing at night when I slept. My wife once counted it for more than 30 seconds at a time. I wound up being diagnosed with sleep apnea. They put me on a CPAP machine, that breathing thing you have to have over your nose and mouth to help you breathe at night so that I wouldn't die. I had 2 boils develop. Boils are a type of infection from the body because of a problem with your immune system. I wound up having one of those lanes. These happened just a little bit before the next event, which I'm going to talk about. As I got older, I was seeing my doctor regularly. That was recommended to do, get your annual physical, make sure things are doing what they're supposed to. That's good. But my doctor would always tell me when I went there, you need to lose weight. You have a bunch of health risks by what you're doing for stroke, for high blood pressure, for heart attack, for diabetes, for other health complications. I'm in good shape. This is crazy. So rather than dealing with the issue, I went into problem avoidance and I stopped going to the doctor. So I didn't have to listen to what he was telling me. That really solved the problem, right? In life, we encounter seminal moments where we're confronted with decisions that we need to make. Am I going to get married? Who am I going to get married to? Are we going to have kids? Am I going to go to college? Am I going to go to a trade school? Am I going to take this job? Is this going to be my career? Should I save for retirement? The answer is yes. How much should I save for retirement? Should I buy this house or should I buy this car? All these things that have impact on our lives. About 3.5 years ago, I went to my doctor for my annual physical. And after he got the blood work back, he looked at me and he said, if you don't change your life, you're going to lose your feet, your kidneys are going to shut down, you're going to go blind, and your entertainment center is going to stop working. You have type 2 diabetes. Where'd that come from? You told me I was at risk. Didn't pay much attention until it happened. So, I needed to make a decision. I could go on doing what I wanted, eating what I wanted, living how I wanted, or I could make some changes in my life. I realized that these decisions wouldn't just impact me, but they were going to impact my family as well. They were going to impact them financially because of the cost of the medications that I was going to need to take and the medical procedures that I needed. It was going to impact them physically because they're going to have to help me when I became so debilitated that I couldn't take care of myself anymore, as well as an emotional impact because of the stress being caused by them witnessing what I was going through and my early death, which was going to be as a result. So thinking about that, that sounds like a real easy decision about what to do, right? Remember I talked about my parents? They were both smokers all of their lives. Very heavy smokers. In her 30s, my mom had a stroke. She was hospitalized for 6 weeks. She made a full recovery, but the doctor told her, you need to stop smoking to decrease your risk of having another stroke. She got out of the hospital after 6 weeks and started smoking. In her 50s, she had an aortic aneurysm rupture. She almost died as a result. They managed to repair the aneurysm, and the doctor told her, the wall of your aorta has gotten severely weakened as a result of your smoking. If we have to go back in and do this again, we aren't going to be able to fix it a second time. You need to stop smoking. Both of my parents stopped for a short period of time. Both went back to smoking. In her 60s, my mom got cancer and died as a result of cancer, leaving my father devastated. His life fate was gone long before she should have. Her father had lived to be 75 and he died of a heart attack. He was a smoker. Her mom had lived into her 90s before she passed away. My dad, along with being a smoker, also, I remember talking, I gotta back up a second, after my mom's aortic aneurysm, I had a conversation with her and said, Mom, why are you still smoking when the doctor tells you you shouldn't do this? She said, I'm going to live my life the way that I want to. I'll make these decisions on what's best for me. This is the way that it's going to be. Nobody's going to tell me what to do. She did. My dad had the same attitude. He wound up dying at age 77 from type 2 diabetes complications. Both of his parents lived into their 90s. It's not just my parents who struggle with these kinds of decisions. I remember as a result of my diagnosis, going to a nutrition class that my doctor sent me to learn how to count carbs, how to plan your meals. And in that class, I could see other people making that exact same decision. They were told, just like I was, that they had type 2 diabetes and what the consequences were. They weren't going to change a thing in their life. They were going to go on living their lives just the way they wanted to, regardless of the consequences, or maybe believing that there weren't any consequences, but there are. So after getting over the shock of my diagnosis, really going through the grieving process, denial, bargaining, anger, and finally acceptance, I chose to make a lifestyle change because that was more important than doing what I wanted when I wanted, how I wanted. And it's really what I want anyway when I think about it, because I want to collect my pension from the city for a long time. I want to dance at my grandparents' weddings, my grandchildren's weddings, even though I don't have any grandchildren yet, and I'm not in a real hurry to get them to come along. My wife wants to keep me around for some strange reason. And I want to celebrate a lot more anniversaries with her. We had our 20th last week. And without her, I couldn't have made the changes that I made. I want to be healthy, and I don't want to suffer debilitating disease. So this is how you can reverse pre-diabetes if you've been diagnosed with it, or how you can avoid getting type 2 diabetes altogether. I've learned to count carbs and plan meals to keep my blood sugar within the acceptable level. I'm eating 5 times a day instead of 3. 3 smaller meals and 2 snacks in between, again, to keep that blood sugar level steady. I've given up some things like orange juice, because 1 glass of orange juice has the same amount of carbs in it as 4 to 5 oranges that you make. Way, way, way too much sugar. And I've given up things like soft drinks, because they aren't healthy for you, and they make you actually gain weight instead of lose weight. I rarely do buffets anymore, as much as I love them earlier, because it's not good for the body to consume that much food. If I do a buffet, I'm very selective in what I eat. I structured my schedule for regular workouts now. I do circuit training on my lunch breaks, and I run 4 to 5 times in the evening. I have set aside the time for that because my body needs it, just like it needs sleep and just like it needs food. That's the big secret to your success, diet and exercise. What a surprise! Who would have guessed? When I got my initial diagnosis, I was 269 pounds. And my body was immunocompromised. My blood levels were out of control. My triglycerides were almost 1,300. My blood glucose level was 12.2. That's all the stuff that I went over last year. My first year of making the lifestyle change, I lost 50 pounds. My second year of making the lifestyle change, I've lost another 10 pounds. And I completed a biathlon of a 5K run and an 800-meter swim because I was competing with my 18-year-old son. There's some motivation there, too, trying to keep up with the kids. My third year, I still managed to maintain the weight loss, kept it off. I've gone from size 42 elastic band pants to size 34. I've gone from a double XL shirt size to a large shirt size. It works if you implement it. I now keep my weight range between 208 and 213 pounds. And on last year's Pro Club fitness evaluation, I got 100% on all of the fitness categories, even the body fat. But I'm not the only one who this stuff works for. Don? For those of you who don't know, this is Don Welch. He works at IT. I ran into him in the GRU EOC Wellness Center a few months back, and I want him to share what he told me.
Well, last year I was sitting in this audience listening to Pete, and a lot of the things he said, basically, I was having the same issue. I couldn't sleep at night, I was sweating all the time. But my blood work and everything was okay, and I could do most of the exercises and stuff. However, sitting in the audience, something changed. I just made that decision to make that change. And so I basically changed my diet. I started working out in the gym twice a week for 1 hour, twice a week. And then on Fridays when I'm off, I play with the grandkids, I take the dog for a walk, and basically whatever I can do to keep moving. And today, as of today, I've lost over 50 pounds.
How do you feel?
Actually, I feel great because I sleep better at night. I don't have the problem with not sleeping. I can chase the kids now. Whereas before, 10 minutes with the kids, I was wore out. I was ready to go back to the house and sit there. We've actually gone camping 3 or 4 times so far this year. Just spending time with the kids and my family has been the best thing for me.
Thanks, Don. Appreciate it. What's important to you? You have to want to do this. I'm going to share one more thing with you before I wrap this up. It was an email that was forwarded to me yesterday about somebody else who struggled with this. I'll read you a couple of excerpts from it. I've noticed quite a few people who have not seen me lately, this is this person and not me, who are noticing my weight loss today. People are very curious about what I am doing, and I'm more than willing to answer questions, so he sent out this email. I started at the beginning of November 2013 and decided it was time for a change. That's where it starts. I was not going to struggle through another holiday season fighting off the holiday pounds. I told myself before I hit 40, I want 6-pack abs. For me, it's a specific goal, and I want it. He's got a goal. That is the key. This is something that has to come from within and not just a half-assed attempt. I have religiously been going to the gym 5 days a week for 17 years. I already have that important element for fat loss. For someone who thinks they will get results without working out, you are partially correct. If you do not exercise and eat less, you will lose some fat or weight. Lifting weights helps build and maintain muscle and amp up your metabolism. Keep in mind, I worked out religiously for 17 years and have never really been ripped. I have greatly increased my muscle mass and strength, but I was not lean. The element of my fitness which was lacking was my nutrition. I found this out the first time I lost fat and weight, going from my all-time high of 300 to my then low of 212. I started to slowly gain weight again. I stopped watching what I ate. Once I reached 250 in November 2013, I decided I needed to change. I currently weigh 204 and intend on stopping at the 190 to 195 range. Through trial and error, this is what I have figured out for me. Everybody's body is different, and they respond differently to foods and routines. You have to adapt things to what works for you. There is no blanket plan that's going to work for everybody. Whatever your eating strategy you adopt, you need to continue with this or some modified version. You cannot eat this way temporarily and revert back to your old ways thinking you'll not go back to your old self. How many of us have done diets of some kind, dropped weight, stopped the diet, and had it all and more come back? It's a lifestyle change. It is not a diet. The following is what I continue to do, and he went through 14 different things. You need to figure out what your target calorie range is. I count carbs, he counts calories. He got a phone app to help him. I used a food journal to help me where I wrote down everything that I ate in a given day. And he says in here, you'd be surprised where those calories come from when you start to take track of what it is that you put into your body. Figure out what your calorie goal is for that day and stay within that goal. The idea to lose weight is to burn more calories than you take in. If you do it through diet only and without exercise, you can't eat as much. If you work out, which is why I run, then you can eat some more, because I do like food. Eat 5 to 7 smaller meals throughout the day, which equals a small meal every 3 hours. Again, leveling out the calorie intake, and it increases your metabolism as well. It helps you to burn food. Eat most of your carbs in the morning. The most important meals are breakfast and your post-workout meal. You do not want a surplus of carbs before going to bed. After your workout, consume a lot of protein in the first hour. He usually has 3 large meals and 3 to 4 smaller snacks in between. The theory behind the smaller meals is comparing your metabolism to a fire. If you want the fire to burn more calories, you want to constantly stoke the fire by throwing wood into it throughout the day instead of huge piles of wood 3 times and then letting the fire die out. Buy a digital food scale to measure your portions. Limit going out to eat. The meals that you get in restaurants are ridiculous in size. And it's real expensive to do that too. I bring my lunch every day. Limit or eliminate your use of alcohol. He says that alcohol affected how his workouts were for almost a week after his having consumed it. And it also inhibited his weight loss. Drink plenty of water. Stay hydrated throughout the day. The more hydrated you are, the fuller you feel, the more efficient your body is at burning fat. I stopped drinking Diet Cokes because I felt it tricked my body into thinking it was satisfying a craving, which was never fully satisfied. I usually drink just water, coffee, or unsweet tea. Sweet teas and regular sodas are calorie-packed and rob your calorie budget. Give yourself 1 cheat meal a week, not a cheat day. 1 meal a week. It's helpful to plan this cheat meal the day before a big workout. Research shows your body will release a hormone called leptin, which will make you feel happy because you've had a cheat meal. Supplementation is not necessary, but you can try it. You don't need to take vitamins if you eat right, but there are some things that can be compensated for that. He talks about taking omega-3s. I do the same thing, and I do some whey protein after my workouts because it helps with muscle sores and stuff now. Work out, work out, work out. I figured out the secret is diet. It truly is 80% diet and 20% working out. I weight train 5 days a week, do some cardio about 3 times a week. Watch out for calories that sneak into your meals. Condiments, dressings, soft drinks, etc. can wreak havoc on your diet. Read books, watch YouTube videos, read articles on nutrition to help you in your quest. My doctor told me I needed to become an expert on my type 2 diabetes when he diagnosed me. And I got all kinds of materials to study and read and learn about it. And I used Rod and Wayne to help learn how to work out and develop a regimen to take advantage of that. We should all be experts on what we're putting into our bodies and how our bodies respond. And then finally, measure your progress. It usually takes 3 weeks before you start to visually see a change. You know you are making progress if you look different and your clothes are fitting loosely. I brought in my size 42s last year to show you how to fit here. If you weigh yourself, he weighs himself 1 time a week, same time of the same day every week. He says that if you weigh yourself too often, you can get discouraged because your weight fluctuates during the week. It doesn't stay at the same point all the time. On average, I'm losing 1 to 2 pounds a week, which is a healthy weight. You don't want to crash. The idea is not to lose 30 pounds in 30 days. It's to do it steadily so you can keep the weight off. My doctor now calls me his poster child, and it's always great to go visit with him. My doctor's name is Dr. Siegfried Schmidt, so I get to speak German with him when I get to go see him, so that's pretty cool too. My health issues have all gone away. No more gout attacks, no more CPAP mask, no more sleep apnea, no more night sweats, no high blood pressure. My blood levels are all in the best of ranges, not just acceptable. My diabetes is controlled through diet and exercise, no medications. He can't say that I'm cured because there's no cure for type 2 diabetes. If I stop doing what I'm doing, I'm going to go right back to all the stuff that I had before. Losing bodily functions and parts. So I choose to enjoy things in moderation and work out, even if I don't feel like it on a given day. My doctor told me that I'm one of only 10 to 20% of people diagnosed with type 2 diabetes who have this kind of success. If I can do it, anybody can do it, you can do it. Anybody can if you set your mind to it. We have a great support system within the city with Rod and Wayne. We have various workout classes at various times. I lead the circuit training class at 11:30 at the Fifth Avenue Wellness Center for upper body training, but they're throughout the day. If you go on the intranet, you can pull up the schedule if you want to go to a class. The great thing is you do the class at your pace and your level. So you don't have to feel intimidated by somebody being at a higher level than you. It doesn't matter. And the camaraderie I found in these classes is great too. You have accountability to each other. That's one of the reasons I like doing these things, because I have a level of accountability to all of you. If I come in next year 30 pounds overweight, you guys are going to know what happened. Why aren't you doing what you're supposed to? And that can be a big thing. You don't have to do this alone. There's a great support network. We have our staff who can help you. If I can do anything to help you, I want to. I'll be happy to do whatever it is. You can get all kinds of advice and information to help you accomplish whatever it is that you want to accomplish when you set those goals. We also have Spring Into Fitness every year. So financially, there's benefits. You can go buy fitness equipment if you need it and have it payroll deducted. You can get gym memberships if you don't want to work out in the city facilities, even though the city facilities are great to do so. They've got all the equipment that you need. Don't put yourself at risk for heart problems or health problems. Feel better and look better. I know I'm preaching to the choir because you all are Health Pro Club members, Steve. But I want to remind you of this to keep leading your healthy lifestyle to reap the benefits of good health. If you need any help, Rod and Wayne are available. And again, I'll do anything I can to help you. Thank you very much.
Before you long, but there's a lot that I could say from Pete's talk. So thank you, Pete. Thank you, Don, for coming and sharing. I do want to ask you a question. Did you get anything from what Pete talked about today? Did you get anything from it? If there's one thing I can say that I got from it would be that if we want to do something, we can do it. But we have to be willing to commit to it. Once you commit to it, you certainly can do it. But if you don't commit to it, you probably won't do it. Am I right? All right, just a couple housekeeping things. Just remember that it is time to schedule your final fitness assessment. Okay? Does everybody know when they're supposed to schedule? Look at your scores from last year, your body composition score. Remember, you scored an 80. Your test is supposed to be in July. You scored a 60, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? Last thing, all proof of event attendance cards, make sure you place them in your envelope and return them at the end of the year. Okay? I don't need them. Some people are turning them to me, but I don't need them right now. Okay? That's the last thing I have. Wayne, do you have any announcements? We're going to go ahead and let you guys go. Next week we have Dakova coming in for our biking and pedestrian safety presentation. After that, Wayne's going to do a class on how to read the nutrition label. So, all right, thank you guys for coming. See you next week.